Odin, Allfather, I summon you to my home tonight so that we may discuss wisdom, so that we may discuss wandering, so we may discuss all that has been accomplished. It's been a while since I offered to just you, Odin. I hope you will join me around these flames, around these fires, so that we may discuss many things. One-eyed, Raven Lord, join me in my home. Join me, so we may discuss many things. I wish to speak with my father. When we follow a god with so many names, would we not too also have many names for different places, for different people? So Odin, I ask, that with this gift, a gift that has traveled far, a gift from one of my adventures. This was given to me by someone I now consider a close friend. I've drank it a few times, and now I wish to share it with you. So Odin, I offer you this mead. Odin, I offer you this drink. To be with me in my home this night, to discuss wisdom, to walk with me as I learn more. Hail, Allfather. Hello, my name is Jacob, and I am a Norse Pagan. And it is time we discuss why I consider myself a Norse Pagan, or why I at least say Norse Pagan at the beginning of these episodes. Because there is not just one term for this faith. There is Asatru, there is heathenism, there's Norse paganism, there's Vanatru, Odinism. There's so many more than I can even name. But I think the main three you'll hear is heathenism, Asatru, and Norse paganism. And what I want to do is just go through those three, the three main ones, and discuss what they are according to the books, what they are according to what you'll find online, what you'll find in your research. And then I'll go into what I feel. Because I want to make sure I give you the untainted information, and that way you can make your own decision. So, starting with Norse paganism, what I consider myself. Norse paganism is a branch, or it's under the umbrella of the term paganism. Now, paganism is a very old term, and it actually means the religion of the peasantry, or the religion of the country folk. And it was a term that came up around the time of Christianity coming into the major cities, and then the people who still worshiped the old folklore were considered pagans. Now, in modern terms, pagan has turned into a lot more because there's a lot of things under that branch that we call paganism. Under that umbrella, in that tree, are other branches of paganism, including, Celtic paganism, African paganism, Russian, Slavic paganism, and even things like Wicca are all under that branch, all under that umbrella, all on that tree that is paganism. Now, again, we'll go into my personal thoughts on that after I go through the rest. But on heathenism. So heathenism is specifically calling to the Nordic and Germanic gods. So Odin, Thor, Freya, Frigg, Tyr, and all the gods and all the things I talk about on this show. So you might be wondering why I don't go with heathen, but we'll get into that. And then you have Asatru, and you will see me use Asatru sparingly, because I feel like a lot of people, when they start down this path, when they start looking all this up, one of the first things they will Google search or search into YouTube is Asatru. So my most popular video is where to begin with Asatru. And the reason it is because that is mostly what people search. So that is why. But again, we're diving into that side now. But Asatru is an Icelandic term. So it is a very modern term that comes from Iceland, that speaks to faith in the Aesir gods and the Asir gods. I will also say that this term gets thrown around more with formalized groups such as the Asatru Folk Assembly and the Asatru community here in North America, and of course in Iceland with the Asatru community there. And I feel like you see this term more in formal settings than you will see Norse Pagan or Heathen. And one of the main failures of Asatru is the fact that it only calls to the Aesir gods. I know so many people that are, Vanir worshippers. So it's weird that Asatru doesn't really call to that. It's not necessarily saying that they don't believe in the Vanir, but, it is excluding them. And I will say anyone that I do find that speaks to Asatru specifically, and even in Asatru in Iceland, you don't hear them talk about the Vanir very often. So I do think Vanatru is something that is a direct response to the lack of representation within Asatru. The other failures of Asatru is the fact that it is very formalized. I find that, if you're following Asatru specifically, you tend to have a more set of rules. Even, if you go to Iceland, there are rule sets you have to follow. There are things that are expected of you when you practice Asatru in Iceland. And there's things expected of you when you're in the Asatru folk assembly here. There's things expected in the Asatru community here as well. To me, it's always been a little too formal of a term. Now, I find myself using Asatru, again, when I want people to find my videos more, because again, I think it's something that people attach to early on in their journey. They find that Asatru is a term they should look up. So that is why I use it here on YouTube. The only time I use Asatru in person is honestly when I'm talking to Christians. The only reason I say that, or people that I don't think are into paganism, I say Asatru because it doesn't have any negative connotation, at least in my experience with people that have no idea what we are. I feel like if you go up to someone that is presumably a Christian, you say, hey, I'm a Norse pagan, they're going to have a negative reaction to you. Whereas, if you go up and say, hey, I am Asatru, they're like, I have no idea what that is. Now, with Norse paganism, the reason I use Norse paganism is because it is one of the older terms. That tie to the peasant religion or the country religion, I enjoy because we aren't really seeking a city religion. This isn't a mass religion where we're going to have, everyone in a mega city worshiping the old gods. It's not really our way. In fact, I was just reading Germania, and one of the things that Tacitus says about the German people in the early days is the fact that they hated living near each other, that they all lived in the woods, they all had their own plots of land, they really didn't have any central communities. And I feel like that reigns true in paganism in general, is that we don't really seek these massive communities, maybe smaller scale communities. So I like that call to the smaller religion. Now, the negative side of this is something that I think I've detected in the community and I have witnessed in the community, is that the ties of Wicca to Norse paganism is something that a lot of people don't like, or at least a group of people don't like. But to me, Wicca people are cousins, in a way. We're not directly related, but a lot of things are intermingled. There is, rituals, there is magic work, there is spell work, there is, divination, there is offerings, and we get along really well. And I feel like that's something we shouldn't scare away from. We're all in this together. We're all these taboo folk religions. Why not embrace it? Now, I'm not saying, I don't necessarily practice anything I would call Wicca. I do ritual work. I don't necessarily do any true spell work. I give offerings to the gods. I create rituals. I work with runes and divination. That's kind of it for me. But I do know a lot of people come to the Norse pagan path, come to Asatru Heathen, whatever you want to call it. They come to the gods through Wicca. I have talked to so many people that started with Wicca and came to the Norse gods. And I don't think we should discount them for that experience. A lot of us come from Christianity. In fact, I would say most of us come from Christianity. So why should we discount what we do if someone starts with Wicca and finds the gods? I don't think we should judge anyone on where they started with this faith in God here. At the end of the day, we're all trying to worship Odin. We're trying to worship Thor. We're trying to gather the folk. I don't think it necessarily matters if you started with Wicca or not. I like Norse pagan because it's very to the point. You're saying, hey, I believe in a folk religion. I believe in multiple gods, and they're Norse. It's very scientific, to the point, done. And that's why most of my videos refer to Norse paganism, and why I start almost every video. In fact, I think it is every video at this point with, hey, I'm Jacob, I'm a Norse pagan. It's cut and dry, to the point. So why don't I say heathen? Why is heathen not my go-to term? I feel like I'm losing light. Do I need to be more dramatic? Oh! Wax is hot. Loki, I knew you were in here somewhere. So why don't I use heathen? I shouldn't say that. Why don't I use heathen often? So I use heathen more when I'm in the company of a group of Norse pagans or a group of people that worship the Norse gods. Because I feel like it's something that's more personal. It's more of a personal connection with other people that believe in this faith. When you say like, oh, you're a filthy heathen, or good morning, you filthy heathens, it's more of a personal call. And I do feel like there is a negative connotation to it. I do feel like there's a negative thing when you say that to someone that doesn't understand this faith. Because if they don't know what heathen is in the sense of believing in the Norse gods, they know heathen as a negative term. And so I don't really like using it for people that I don't know their religious beliefs, just because I feel like it starts the conversation on a negative foot, or they have a negative viewpoint of what I am. So yeah, I don't use heathen necessarily when in first introductions, but I will use it more for personal interactions with other believers in the faith. So a couple final notes. Yes, I use Norse Pagan. I will sometimes use heathen, mostly with people I know who are into the faith, and I'll use Asatru to start conversations with Christians usually. So I hope that clears some things up. Now, I have two final points I want to bring up. One I kind of said in my initial offering to Odin is Odin has many names. Odin uses many names to accomplish different deeds. He travels the land in disguise. He wanders. He'll have different names for different lands, different names for different people. It's because those names carry weight in different ways. Allfather might carry a weight differently to One-Eyed, or to Harberth, or to Odin, and we're not going to be much different. Our name carries different weight. I don't think there's one label for this faith. I don't think there's one right answer. I don't think heathens are wrong. I don't think Norse pagans are wrong. I don't think Asatru are wrong. I think we all have different reasons for using these terms. But at the end of the day, we're all worshiping, or at least all attempting to worship the Norse gods. And isn't that what this is about? It's about worshiping the Norse gods. It's about coming together as folk. It's about celebrating the world we live in and healing this land from the years of neglect and abuse it has received. That's what's important. Why make our small community smaller by separating ourselves based on what we call ourselves? It's just absurd. My closing point. I've found that in this faith, I've started calling it the old ways, or worshiping the old gods, or quite simply saying worshiping Odin or worshiping Thor. I treat this as an aspect of my life more than just a label, because it isn't a label. This faith isn't a label to me. I don't just go around with a name tag that says, hey, I'm Jacob, I'm a Norse Pagan, even though that's my tagline, because this is just my life. The gods are a part of my life. The spirits are a part of my life. The folk are a part of my life. And I don't really need a term for that. And that's the thing. If you look back in the day, if you look in the histories, and anyone will tell you this, they didn't really call themselves anything in the pre-Christian society. They didn't really need to, because it was just life. And that's what I'm trying to get back to, is that this isn't a labeled religion. It doesn't need to be. All it is my way of life. And I like to celebrate this way of life with other people that like to worship the gods. We're all going to do it slightly differently. But that's the beauty of it. We're all going to have unique cultural traditions. And I know once Christianity came around to these, the pre-Christian villages, it did sort of create a term. It sort of became a thing, and they started calling it the old way. So you had the people with the new way, which was Christianity, and it's like, oh, he follows the old way. He follows the old gods. And to me, that's what I've been using more. Oh, I worship the old gods. Oh, I follow the old ways. Because that makes sense. But again, I still use Norse Pagan, I'll use Heathen, I'll use Asatru at times. What really matters is the gods, it's the folk, and the land we live in, the spirits that live on this land with us. That's what's important. So hopefully this answered your question. What is the difference between heathenism, Norse paganism, and Asatru? But also gives you my own personal perspective on these issues. I hope it makes sense. I hope you will join me in just enjoying this faith, not needing a label for it, but just worshiping the old gods. Because having the gods a part of my life, having the folk a part of my life, has saved my life, has given me purpose, has given me joy. I don't need a label for that. This is just my life now. So folk, until next time, until the hall, Skull.